Hello and welcome to the Legends of Tabletop podcast. I have with me yet again Oscar Rios from Golden Goblin Press to talk about the new Kickstarter for the Legacy of Arrius Lurco. But first, Oscar, how you doing? How you been?
Good. It's been a week. Full time. For those working a full time job, I would not suggest launching a Kickstarter on Valentine's Day weekend right after the Super Bowl. Um, could have picked a better time, but I wanted it to end at Ides of March, so it's been a pretty exhausting but amazing week. I refuse to complain about how the Kickstarter is going.
Yeah, you guys rocketed right out of the gate. It's just going gangbusters right now.
Yeah, we funded in a little over 9 hours.
Nice.
It's the fast. I'm pretty sure it's the fastest we've ever funded. I think we in the 13 Kickstarters we've launched, we've only had I think one or two other day one funding, and maybe not even day one.
Right.
But this was definitely something pretty amazing.
That's cool. So what was the impetus behind reworking this campaign, getting it out? I mean, obviously you want to update to seventh edition. Is that the main focus?
Yes, initially it was. We had planned. This is a book that we've been working on and planning to do for a while. As soon as Miskatonic River Press shut down, I stepped in and I bought the rights back to. I brought the rights to the campaign, because I wanted it. It's like he was parceling out stuff. Like Stygian Fox got a few things,
Mhm.
and I wanted to make sure that we at least got this, which is fine. We also got the companion to this, Lux and Tenebris. Anyway, so we've had it and we put it up on our website, the old PDF, so it's been there. But we didn't want to print it because it's 6th edition rules. We want to, if we're going to print it, why don't we just take the little extra effort to convert it to 7th edition? Initially, we just did a 7th edition conversion PDF to kind of like a cheat sheet. If you wanted to run it, you've got all the
Mhm.
conversions.
Yep.
And then once you've done that, you've already worked out the 7th edition conversions. It's just going in and editing the text.
Sure.
And like any glutton for punishment, once you start thinking about that, you're like, I always thought that this part could have been done better. And I mean, Lisa and I wrote this, I think it was 2011.
Mhm.
It's 2023. So we've been working together, over a decade. And, we wanted to, like, we could have done this better. Like, these characters seem really tacked on. And wouldn't it be interesting if we fix this? And, you know, we've evolved culturally.
Mhm.
So, there are certain terms there are better terms for now. So we wanted to reword some things and maybe call in a sensitivity reader because, it is ancient Rome. And you got the whole slavery thing. You've got the whole, you know, prostitution thing and the average Roman couple being a 30-year-old man and a 13-year-old girl. The world before heterosexuality was a thing. So it's kind of a kooky place, and maybe a sensitivity reader wants to look at it and smooth things over. So Lisa and I decided instead of just reprinting the old version, we would create a 7th edition version of the Legacy of Arrius Lurco. And we'd work on it, and things would get rolling, and then something would happen, and we'd have to put it on the back burner. And that happened for quite a few years. That just, one disaster after another would happen, one crisis that we'd have to deal with, which we've always dealt with them. Um, knocking on wood. Um, but and then especially with the last two projects that were both late and both, COVID really, and it's not just my company. COVID really screwed up a lot of creative teams, a lot of supply chains. We were no different. But we were like, as soon as we are clear we are focusing on the Legacy of Arrius Lurco. We are not we are finishing this. We are not starting anything else. We're not even talking about anything else. Once Britannia is in Chaosium's hands, we are focusing on this and nothing else because people have pre-ordered it. People pre-ordered it thinking we were going to reprint the 6th edition one. Little did they know we were going to surprise them with the 7th edition. And now they're not surprised. They're pissed off because they've been waiting for years to get the copies of their books. But in the meantime, so that was the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't supposed to take this long. It wasn't supposed to be, such a big thing. But once you start scratching the surface of editing for 7th edition content, you have to look at the whole content, and you have to look at the places where, with 10 years of experience, you may have made different choices as an author or an editor, or as a team of author and editor like Lisa and I. We work very closely hand in hand. So there were a lot of things we wanted to mix up and change and improve and streamline and so forth.
And what was it like to get back to it after, looking back with the hindsight of
it was and it is, because we're kind of moving into editing part 5 now. Like parts 1 and 2 and 3 and now 4, because it's expanded. We can talk about that a little bit more later. What is it like? It was really weird. And you realize how really personal this work was, and how you may not have realized it at the time. So it was, you're looking at things and you're like, wow, you look back at yourself 10 years ago and you're thinking, I wasn't that great. I'm so much better now. And then I look at him like, wow, that was pretty clever. I'm kind of proud of myself. And then there are moments I'm like, wow, that is sloppy and chunky and railroady as crap. And I would never do that today. So it was a mix of admiration to my younger self and shame. there were moments of both. And for Lisa as well, she was like, I can't believe I let these typos through after so many. Like, there was stuff that she was kicking herself with. I was kicking myself with.
We get blind to that after a while.
Right. But also with 10 years of experience, you look at the campaign as a whole and you realize this is where I was at the time, and this is where I am now. And with that with that stepping back and seeing the big picture of the campaign, you really get a snapshot of your life and the way your life was. Like when I originally wrote this, it's at the core, it's a story of fathers and mentors, and the legacy that you carry forward from the previous generation. So when I wrote this, I had just lost Keith Herber as a mentor, and my father was suffering from dementia. So, of course, a story about sons worried about their father's erratic behavior, it was very personal.
Right.
Now, my son is a grown man living on his own with his own life, and I'm closer to grandchildren than I am children. So when I wrote this, I could more sympathize with Casca and Melito, Arrius Lurco's sons, because they were dealing with that generation. Now, as I rewrite it, of course, I have a lot more in common with Arrius Lurco himself, a man at the end of, not that I'm planning to give up the ghost, but a guy who's lived his life, who has grown children, and who's worried about what he's going to leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
He's planning to make a stand, to make a difference with what time he has left. And if that's not the goal of every middle-aged man, I don't know what is. You get to 45, 50, and you look at yourself and you're like, what do I want to accomplish before my clock runs out? So I'm looking at it now, and it's through a whole new lens of life experience, which is kooky.
Yeah, that's cool though. That's cool.
It is. It's surreal.
I didn't realize that this is the only official campaign for Cthulhu Invictus.
Well, it's the only published one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have our whole
Speaking
thing,
as
but
speaking as someone who's ran 11 Britannia adventures during COVID, um, at current, it is the only Cthulhu Invictus campaign. Do we have plans for others? Yes. Um, but getting back to what I said before, we're not even discussing plans until this one is out. It's like every other idea is not on a shelf. It's in a freezer. It's in deep freeze. We're not taking it out to defrost until this is out. For my own good, whether I like it or not. We are doing nothing else until this is done.
all right, cool.
And then it'll be the first time GGP has started fresh. That we'll have all projects done before, there'll be no overlap anymore, which is something that's been driving us crazy for the last few years.
Right. Well, but you have different teams, though, right? I mean, one project typically doesn't affect another project.
One project typically doesn't affect another project unless you have staff changes and you have people passing the baton or stepping down, and then you have to, scramble to fill slots, which is what's happened a few projects in a row. Just bad luck, end of the world,
it's life,
COVID
though.
stuff. It's life. It's life.
Yeah. And so, did Miskatonic River Press, were they the original licensees for Invictus?
They were a licensee of Chaosium. Chaosium held the license, and to produce an Invictus project, you had to ask them for permission. Like when we did Dahara Cosmico at GGP, we asked them for permission to do an Invictus book, and they said, "Sure, go ahead." Because at that point they had, Cthulhu Invictus was no longer a monograph; it was an established setting with its own mainline setting book. Right. When Chaosium decided they were no longer going to support Cthulhu Invictus, they were going to effectively abandon the line. They offered the license, the sub license to me. It's still part of the Call of Cthulhu universe, so technically I'm operating the license under their umbrella of 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. But yeah, so that changed dramatically from when it first came out to when it is now, to how it's handled now.
Gotcha. And what is it about Invictus that calls to you as much as it does?
Well, I love history. And the Romans kept great records. I mean, sure, how much can we really trust, the victors write history? But the history is there. There's a real snapshot to the culture. And I mean, there's so much that's familiar, and there's so much that's just absolutely alien. There's so much that's like really interesting, and familiar, like professional militaries, highway systems, international trade, integration of different cultures, a melting pot. People wanting citizenship. Most of the wealth being controlled by like 1%, and everybody else just trying to get by. So there's that's very familiar to modern life. And then there's stuff that's just completely bonkers, like magic being a part of the fabric of everyday life, institutionalized slavery. But slavery, the way, when you think of the American South and slavery, this is Roman slavery was very different. Like most Roman slaves had a realistic possibility of earning their freedom at some point, or being freed upon their master's death, leading to the whole freedman phenomenon of social classes. And then those freedmen sometimes becoming, equestrians, like rising through the ranks. I think at some point there's an emperor somewhere that 2 generations ago his grandparents were slaves. So even though there's institutionalized slavery, it's quite different from what our understanding is, the gender roles are different, the social class rules are different. Magic is widely accepted. Um, you know, uh, it's just a very interesting mix of the very familiar and the very alien, and sometimes the disturbing, aspects of it. Like gladiatorial combat, like state sponsored murder for mass market entertainment.
Yeah.
It boggles the mind, and we so romanticize it until you step back, you know, and you stop seeing it through the lens of glory in Hollywood, of how brutal and savage that must have really been. But then again, uh, gladiators were like the soccer stars or the NFL stars of their day. They were
Mhm.
idolized. They had merchandise, for Christ's sake. So again, the very, very familiar and the completely disturbing and alien.
Right.
So for me, that's very alluring. It's like you're enjoying something you shouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was real. This was not. You know, you can't make up stuff that's as crazy as the stuff that actually happened.
Yeah. Well, people got to people, so
Yeah.
that doesn't change throughout history. Uh, so the original campaign had 4 scenarios. You guys are adding a fifth scenario
Well, if
for
you're going to do
the
it, if you're going to
yeah.
ask people to buy a book they already own, you can't just say, "Oh, we fixed the editing and we polished it up a little bit and we had a sensitivity reader." You got to bring more. You got to put more meat on the table than that. So, a few years ago, I wrote a scenario. A few years ago, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I wrote a story, a scenario called "Ghosts of Iron Mountain," where the players go into the mountains of Spain, and one of the threads was that a family owned a spearhead of black steel that was said to be able to shatter stone. And it was like they were calling it like the God Slayer. And it was passed down through their family from the days of the Republic, when their family was one of the Roman families trying to conquer the Spanish tribes in the mountains. So it becomes like a subplot of
Hmm.
where did this weapon come from and who made it and what are its powers. But it was only like part of the focus of the adventure. So when we were looking at Arrius Lurco and thinking of enlarging it by a scenario, there was a conversation between Lisa and I where said, "Hey, I can write a new scenario," and she was like, "God, please no. That's just going to slow things down. You have so many great scenarios. Can we just adapt one of the ones that you've written and run many times and just update that?" And then I thought, well, what scenarios do I have that would fit into Arrius Lurco? And I'm thinking, well, they're in Greece looking for a death, a death machine, a death ray. Why wouldn't they go to Spain to look for a Godslayer sword as another weapon to use in their battle against the cult and Ehort, the great old one? So, and it fit perfectly. So we added a thread where in the clue trail from part 1, in the box of documents, you find out that Arrius Lurco sent one of his most trusted companions to track down the Godslayer and try and buy it. And that man has now vanished.
Nice.
So his family is really upset that, the crazy lunatic Arrius Lurco sent their dad on a wild goose chase and now he's vanished. And can somebody please try and find him and bring him home? So that becomes part 3. After the 2 chapters in Rome, instead of going straight to Athens, the party will go to Spain if they choose. They may choose not to.
Right.
They may say, "Hey, we'll pick. We'll get the death ray first and cycle back for the Godslayer." We're hoping to leave that open and let them go in whatever direction they want. But
Sure. Should have labeled this with all kinds of spoilers. Jeez.
well, I'm just spoiling the stuff they're going to be told in the first 5 minutes of play.
Right. Right.
They don't, that's basically, this is stuff NPCs are going to tell them.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, I mean, yes, we are spoiling that Arrius Lurco does not survive long in the campaign. But I don't think anybody who's a Batman fan is wondering where his parents went. I think they know. Yeah,
That's fair.
his parents aren't coming home from that movie.
You're right. You're right.
Spoiler alert.
Now, for fulfillment for this one is theoretically November.
It is. See, here's the thing. Since we've been working on it so long, I've already got all the art. We've commissioned all the new art. It's in-house. It's paid for. The new maps, it's in-house. It's paid for. The whole thing's been updated to 7th edition. We have 4 of the 5 scenarios kind of edited to a certain extent. We are at this point, we are working on nothing else. There is nothing else going on. We have the mailing for Britannia, but Lisa doesn't have anything to do with that. Right. And most of this is going to be her editing and the two of us working together. We have nothing else to lay out. We have nothing else to edit. We have nothing else to write. So this is all we're going to be working on. The November date is to have the PDF released.
Okay.
The print book may be early 2024, but we are hoping that by November we can have it all wrapped up. And now that we funded, we have that financial boost to smooth out any of those rough edges and get it actually done and out the door.
Sure. So you're not feeling any additional pressure to, make sure that this one's done before the year's up. I mean, just as devil's advocate, right?
You mean as opposed to the usual pressure I have of trying to get a project out?
Well, I mean, that's to say, like, as devil's advocate, right? Like, Britannia is late, right? But to then see, like, okay, we're gonna get this one out like right away. Like, is there some, I don't want to say like fan service isn't the right thing, but is there some underlying, like, oh, because this one was late, we should see if we can try to get this out earlier, like, make the fans happier by getting something out quicker.
I'll explain my theory, my whole attitude towards that. I had dinner with Lisa the other night. We hadn't had dinner since before the pandemic, but when the Kickstarter funded in a day, we decided if there's a day that we're going to celebrate, today's the day. So right. The first time in several years, Lisa and I sat down and had dinner, and I told her that I feel like we've finally figured out the path through the minefield. Because for the past 4 years, we've stepped on every goddamn mine in the fucking field and blown ourselves up and gotten into every disaster. So I kind of feel like now we know what to do to chart a course to give us the best possible chance of achieving our goals. For example, we have stretch goals. We are unlocking them. They're going into something called the Arrius Lurco Companion. That is not part of the main book. We are not adding text to the main book because that will delay the overall production time of the main book. The stretch goals are going into a side book that we can work on after and possibly come out 2 or 3 months after the main book is released. And what are we putting in the stretch goals? We're putting on stuff that we know we can quickly and easily do because it's stuff that we're good at and we've done it before. Like pre-gen investigators. We've done several books of pre-gen investigators. Updating a 6th edition scenario to 7th edition. We've done that. And that scenario is written, a Fractus, that's already listed as a stretch goal. There's another scenario that we will be putting up from Lux and Tenebras into the companion. And that's going to be PDF only. And why is it PDF only? So we don't have to print it and we don't have to ship it, and it doesn't increase the postage cost of the main book, which is all things that have gotten us in trouble and have delayed things and have pissed people off. So really for 2023, I did a lot of bean counting and soul searching on the way Golden Goblin Press operates. And I think I've really started to learn how to do the business part of it better, how to kind of do the logistics of it, how to do the production of it better. I mean, we were always creative and we always had good artists and we could always put out a beautiful book thanks to Mark. But everything else was a learning process, you know. Now I feel like because of what we've learned through various, you know, trials and tribulations, we're now equipped with the skills to operate at a much more efficient level.
Right. And again, some of that's light stuff. You know, you lose an editor, you're gonna bring, Pookie in to come in now well after the fact and go through a book. And it, again, we've discussed this on air before, and it's harder for me to judge, right? Because we're friends, but at the end of the day, like Golden Goblin has never put out a crap product. They've never not delivered a product. So like, okay, yeah, Britannia's late, but also like I've seen it. It looks amazing. It's gonna be awesome. And I'd rather wait a
I've been
little
on
bit
pins
longer
and
to
needles.
get.
I'm ready to hit the distribute
Yeah.
button. I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for Chaosium to get back to me on 1 or 2 issues. And then we could boom. I could literally, if they gave me the email tonight, that book's getting that Britannia will be released to backers tomorrow. I'm just gotta wait. I gotta, you know.
Yeah. There's I think people get, and I get it. I mean, I get it, right? You put your money up, you get charged, you're waiting, but also like the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you guys have always delivered, quality, just awesome stuff. So like,
Yeah, but people don't understand how much time it takes to polish something to that level, because it can look great and it can all be there, and then as you take looks at it, then you're finding the typos, then you're finding the inconsistencies, then you're finding the weird art things that somehow got shifted. Then the people you forgot to thank, and you've got to go and you've got to edit and you've got to polish, because if you're going to put something out, how do you live with yourself knowing there's some crap rules about chariot combat that we should have really smoothed out before we went to print, and now we have to live with it for the rest of our lives.
right.
No, you spend a couple of extra days fixing that one little thing, and that all takes time, unfortunately.
And Britannia balloon too, right? I mean, it's a much bigger book than originally anticipated.
It's massive. It's like 145 pages, 141 or it's just massive. And it's like you love all of it and you really want to cut half of it, and then it gets a third bigger. And it's like we had Richard Watts. He said, "Hey, I'm ethnically Irish, even though I'm Australian. I'd love to write the Ireland chapter." And we're like, "Oh my God, yes!"
Mm-hmm.
And he delivered, up like 14 amazing pages. And damn it, we're gonna keep all of it because it's amazing. Did we want that chapter to be that long? No. Is it? Yes, because it's good stuff, and it does get away from you. Eventually you have to just slap yourself in the face and say it has to be done. This is we're not doing any more, we're not adding anything else, we're going to wrap up the last bit of corrections and it's going to be done, and this is what it's going to be. So yeah, we finally got to that point, and then 6 months later, it's like, because piecing it together was really polishing it up, because when you go through multiple editors, it's like contractors. They take a hole out of the wall, and the next contractor comes in and goes, well, I got to fix the hole he put in the wall so I can put my own hole in.
Right.
So it just slows everything down. But it's as you've seen it. I'm very proud of the work my team has done, especially Mark. I mean, the book it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yep. So will Britannia be available as an add-on to Arius Lurco?
Of course. Arius
Okay,
Lurco is going to have a backer kit store that every Cthulhu Invictus product can be added to it.
nice.
Not our 1920 stuff, not our non-Cthulhu Invictus fiction stuff. It's going to be a Cthulhu Invictus store, which is also part of the way we're restructuring for the future. Moving forward, Golden Goblin Press is going to be much more heavily focused on supporting the Cthulhu Invictus line, and our projects outside of that are going to be a little bit fewer and far between. We were kind of like, oh, every other project will be Invictus, or Invictus will be 1/3. Now it's going to we're hoping to get our Invictus support to be like 70% of the work we put out at least.
Oh, okay.
That's just
Nice,
moving
nice.
forward in the years to come.
Right. Okay. Just not to talk about bad stuff.
We can talk
But
about bad stuff.
the two recent Kickstarters that didn't fund the vacation one in the Pacific. Was Pacific an RPG book or was that a fiction book? I don't recall.
The Pacific was going to start as an RPG book.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And it ran into problems, and it ran into a lot of problematic things that we just couldn't find a way to fix. And nobody's fault. It's just I think that society went in another direction about who should be telling what stories. We would have loved to have a scenario, a book set in Polynesia written by old Polynesian Call of Cthulhu authors. But that probably, while possible, was something that our company couldn't do.
Right.
We just don't have the resources to cast that wide of a net and attract that kind of a talent pool. So we decided to shift the Pacific project, use the cover art, which you'd already commissioned and paid for, to be the cover of a fiction book all about stuff that happens on vacation. So we rebranded the cover art and we launched a fiction collection, and that Kickstarter failed to fund.
Do you think it's because it was fiction as opposed to RPGs? Is there a difference in audience, do you think? Right, because if you're in for the RPG, right, you're probably a reader already anyway. Like these are situation subjects, topics that our people are interested in.
Well, I don't have to have an opinion. I can look at the facts. The facts are we've had 2 failed Kickstarters, and they were both fiction projects.
Yeah.
The facts speak for themselves. Our fiction line is not as well supported by our fan base as our RPG line, and that's something we have to face. Have we done good good fiction work? Yes. What are the fiction?
It's right here.
What are the fiction books that have worked best for us? The cat themed one, which was attached to an RPG. The 2 Invictus ones, and the upcoming Tales of Cthulhu Invictus Britannia. These were all stretch goals to existing NPCs. If we do a fiction book that is a tie-in to a successful RPG Kickstarter as a companion, that's viable. It's when we try and do straight fiction that we start to run into trouble.
Do you think it's because people just expect RPG material from Golden Goblin? Right? I mean, that's what you're known for more, as opposed to like a small indie publisher that does horror fiction.
Right. I mean, and people are thinking where they want to get their horror fiction from. They're not thinking Golden Goblin Press. Do we have horror fiction? Sure, but it's not. It's not what we're known for. It's not what the horror fiction. The people who love horror fiction probably aren't even aware that we produce horror fiction, which is not their fault. It's we are a small, very small tip of the corner of an industry. So yeah, unfortunately, fiction is going to be something we're probably not going to be doing as much, or we're going to be doing it far more carefully.
Sure.
And if we do continue to do fiction, it will be attached to a project, an RPG project that's going to support it. I think we could keep doing Cthulhu Invictus collections because we have the Cthulhu Invictus line. But for just straight up non-themed standalone fiction, well, again, 2 for 2. Don't have to have a theory when you have facts.
Yeah. That's unfortunate because the fiction books that you have put out that have been successful are excellent. I mean, like I said, I have them. So
Right. I think part of getting older is to realize that while things are unfortunate, sometimes you just have to accept what is and make a better plan. Is it unfortunate? Sure. What are we going to do about it? We're not going to keep doing the same unfortunate things that have the same unfortunate results. We're going to try and learn from them. The things that you can't change, you have to adapt to.
Right.
And, we gave standalone fiction a good shot. And, it is what it is. We have to learn what we're good at and do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And stop trying to do the things we're not so good at, which we're not as successful at. And that's hard. That's, that only comes with gray hair and experience.
We both have plenty of that.
Yeah, we've got that in spades now. These are conversation old men have, not young men.
Yeah. Of course, printing costs, shipping costs are ridiculous as always, and continue to be. Is there going to be a print on demand option, perhaps, for this?
We have every intention of making the Legacy of Arrius Lurco a print on demand through Drive-Thru-RPG or other sources if we get better deals. And that's going to be the way we're going to go more in the future. We're going to start shying away from international shipping and let international customers order their books from us through Drive-Thru-RPG so they can be printed and shipped locally or more locally to where they are.
Right.
So we have every intention of having the Legacy of Arrius Lurco as a drive-through print-on-demand book, as a stretch goal or something we just do after the campaign. I know that there are a lot of European and, again, not even Europe. There are other, we sent books to China and Japan and, Australia and New Zealand. So, international. Don't forget Canada and South America. I love all you guys. But we're going to start being smarter about how we support our fan base outside of the lower 48. And I think print on demand is going to be the way that we do that. Shipping is just out of control in many ways. Out of control price-wise, and out of control meaning it is something that my company does not have control over. And we get complained to a lot about it. And it is out of our hands. This is what it is. How can you charge $25 in shipping? And I'm thinking, because you live in Germany and with the weight of this book, I know it's going to be $28 and $37 because we've done it many times. And in fact, we price the shipping knowing we're going to lose money on some of them. And we're counting beans a lot more carefully these days. We can't afford to, we just can't afford to keep making mistakes that we've made before. So print on demand for international is going to be something we're doing more of in the future, especially with this project.
Yeah.
And hopefully print on demand versions of the companion as well.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's really like the best possible option because the print on demand books that come out are good quality, right? I mean, it's similar to what you get on your regular print run. And obviously so much cheaper. And it's, I mean, being in the US, it doesn't affect me, but I know like it's just such a huge sticking point. And you spend $50 on a book and then $70 to ship it. Like it's just because if I love a physical product, right? Like, okay, sure. If you're in Brazil, you can order the PDF, but like you can't put the PDF on the shelf. It's just it's not the same thing.
Of course. I mean, people who play RPG they tend to be romantics. People who play Call of Cthulhu, they are definitely romantic and have a thing for books. I mean, spooky books on shelves is such a Call of Cthulhu thing, probably more so than any other fan base. So we
Yeah.
like our physical books.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good. And you guys are fully funded. You were what, like 190% funded or
Yes,
something
we are
like that? I saw.
190% as of this afternoon, and with 26 days to go. So we expect to knock down a few more stretch goals. We're excited about the next few. We're excited about all of them, actually. I mean, it'd be great if we can, get a whole slew of stretch goals, and I think we will. I mean, 26 days, and we're already at stretch, heading towards stretch goal 5.
Right, right, right. That's awesome. $25 will get you the PDF. $65 gets you the book PDF combo with all digital add-ons. So I mean, it's on par with an RPG book. I mean, this is what it
Yeah,
is.
this is what it is now. And if you were smart, and you were a dedicated fan, you would have seen that we had a special day one backer price that a lot of you took advantage of. So you're
Yeah.
not paying 65, you were paying 50. And that's probably why we funded on day one, because nobody, I can get the book for 50 if I back on the first day, or 65 if I back tomorrow. Well, duh. We wanted a strong first day. We were willing to make that offer, and it was wildly successful to us. I'm
Yeah.
sleeping a lot better having a funded Kickstarter than if I would have been watching it for all week. So yeah, losing that $15 per book, I'm okay with that. I could definitely live with that just for my nerves.
Well,
And
we were talking.
it was something that, it was almost like a secret between the fan base. The people who
Mhm.
follow us on Facebook, and who clicked the link early and went and they saw, oh well, there's a 1 day early bird. So it was almost like we wanted to reward the people who are really there for us.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny when we were talking about, are you coming on? Sure, when you gonna have me? And I'm thinking, well, we'll wait the first 2 weeks. We'll hit the doldrums. We'll kind of see if we can stir up, some more interest again. And then like, boom, it was fun, and it was like, all right, well, I guess come on whenever you want, then, because it doesn't matter now.
Right. Well, it always matters. It always matters. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be promoting it a great deal. I'm actually leaving for a con in a week. I think I'll be running games this time next week at TotalCon in Massachusetts, and I've got plenty of promotional postcards for the campaign that have been left over from Necronomicon that I'll be distributing, and I'm running. I'm running Call of Cthulhu. I'm running, Cthulhu Invictus on, I think, Saturday night.
Nice.
Fun. I thought Sunday morning. Something about a talking half rotting deer, and
Oh, is that one of ours?
yep.
Yeah.
I'm running Shadow of the Oak, a little bit expanded from what you guys did, but
Nice.
so it'll be a fun con round.
That's cool. Now, have you done a lot of cons since all the COVID stuff? Was Necronomicon the first thing you were really kind of out at, or?
No, before Necronomicon, we did Rising Phoenix. It was their first con. That was another Massachusetts con. I love my New England fan base. Those people love Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their first year, and it was just splendidly run. I mean, a lot of them had worked for part of the Total Con crew, so they knew how to run a con. For a first year, it was amazingly well organized.
Nice.
We vended, and the booth was profitable. All of the games sold out. The only problem was out of their control because it was right after COVID when nobody wanted to come back and do their waitressing, bartending jobs. And the hotel was like, these are gamer nerds. They're not going to want to. They're not going to want They're not going to want booze and nachos after 10 p.m. Their moms are going to come and pick them up. So literally everybody mobbed the bar in the evening, and the we tipped our waitress well. but literally waitress 1.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and they're going to fix that this year. They're like, look, we are going to swamp the bar. So, I mean, and if that's the only complaint for a first year con, that's kudos to that crew. They were just amazing.
Yeah.
We're actually coming back to Rising Phoenix with a team. We're running 12 rounds of Call of Cthulhu
Damn.
with 4 different GMs. So it'll be the first GGP team that we fielded in since before the pandemic.
Wow. That's cool. That's very cool. That was the same issue we had at Necronomicon last year.
They never think we're going to drink.
And but Brian called, Murph called the place and said, "Hey, we're going to bring a shit ton of people," and they were like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then they called again and said, "Hey, we're going to bring a bunch of people." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever." And then we went in, and there was like 2.
They never believe
working.
us. They never believe us. We play a game where you're sitting around with friends bullshitting and talking for 4 hours. After that, you want some wings, you want some nachos, and you want a few beers.
Yeah.
Desperately. Desperately. And that's great because we're stimulating the local economy. But come on, we're warning you. We're calling ahead.
Yeah. It worked out. It worked out, and after the first night, it was fine. But yeah, that first night was a little, a little crazy.
Dicey. Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm doing total con end of this month. I'm doing Rising Phoenix. Let me check my calendar. Rising Phoenix is going to be in April. Let me give them a shout out. So yeah, Rising Phoenix is going to be in April. I think weekend of the 23rd. And we're going to be there running, a ton of stuff. 4 GMs running, and we're going to do tons of panels. They're doing like small intimate panels where it's going to be like me and 5 people just shooting the shit about stuff.
Oh, nice.
One of them is really be really interesting. It's the care and feeding of a long-term campaign. I'm doing the motivation, maintaining motivation in writing. And they're going to have another author with me working that. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. That's
cool. I always enjoy a panel at a convention. It's good. It's good change of pace. You get good guests and good topics. It's sometimes it's just a nice break. Sometimes it's it's great informational stuff. Tending and caring for a long-term campaign, like that's you think it's just everybody shows up on Friday and we play for a while, but like there's more to it than that.
I think one of them is going to be just we're going to trade stories about great moments in Call of Cthulhu gaming, and I'm going to give like 4 or 5 really great stories of things that have happened in game, and then I'm going to challenge the panel, the people who've attended. Give me your great Call of Cthulhu morning, story, and the one who is the best story, I'm giving a free book to.
There you go.
So that's the panel. We're just gonna trade stories, and the one that I like best gets a free book. And I'm thinking this is a really dumb idea, and the organizer's like, "This may be the best panel. This is gonna be great." And I'm like, "Okay." I think it's gonna be called like. So there I like depending on the panel was like. So there I was. ... There
you go. Well, it plays to that. Hey, let me tell you about my character kind of thing.
Right? Who doesn't all love those stories? Yep. If you're a keeper, you want to tell how you killed people, or those crazy players that just completely went off the rails, or if you're how you died. That great character death you had. Or that clutch moment. We love sharing our stories and we love hearing about them. So
how your character was killed and turned into a fetch that nobody knows about yet.
But yeah, there'll be a lot of I'll be telling my story about one of the stories I'll be telling is I had a modern game. I don't run a lot of modern games, and there were children who were zombified from tainted Halloween candy. So I had 4 people with handguns out, and a little zombie kid comes out of underneath underneath a bed in the hospital, and like hits somebody with defibrillator paddles and shocks them, and then tries to run away. And they said it's a little boy in a Batman costume. So I have 4 people just fire multiple rounds, like 2 and 3 shots at this little zombie kid running away, and nobody hits him.
Oh
Literally
no.
four characters with multiple attacks each round, who are like Delta Green types, Homeland Security. Nobody hits him. And then somebody says, I can't believe none of you hit him. And then one of the players go, well, come on. He's Batman. Nothing top. At that point, we should have stopped playing. It's like, it can only be downhill from that comment. But that happened at a con probably 15 years ago, and I'm still, that moment still makes me laugh.
That's awesome.
He's Batman.
Oh, crap. So is there anything else that's coming up for Golden Goblin that you want to?
Intentionally, no.
Not until this is done.
We are not even thinking. Is there stuff I want to do? Yes. Am I defrosting any of those ideas? No. We are working on Arrius Lurco until Arrius Lurco is done. And that's it. Do I have ideas for after that? Yeah. When are those ideas going to be worth talking about? 2024, after this is out. What do we want to do? Yes, we want to support Cthulhu Invictus with smaller books, PDF, maybe just print on demand PDF. I would love to do a book that's a setting guide for one province with one scenario in it. Like, Corsica. The guide to Corsica with one adventure set in Corsica. Boom. Like kind of half setting, half adventure. Right. And just, support it. Give people an adventure, a Cthulhu Invictus adventure to play something new a couple times a year. So, that's the direction we want to go. Smaller projects, easier to produce, within our means. Maybe even start shying away from Kickstarter. Maybe trying to do one small book from a war chest and just see if we can get a book out the door with pre-orders and not go through the whole, we're going to spend, 2 months on a Kickstarter and then pay a lot of fees for shipping and credit card processing when we can just do our best to kind of create a product, put it on the website, run it up the flagpole, see how it sells. Right. So yeah, that's the direction we want to start going. But specifics, not willing to talk about anything, not willing to think about it, not willing to work on it, not willing to write for it. All we want to do is get Britannia out, get it printed, get it mailed to backers, and then get Arrius Lurco finished, delivered on, approved, delivered, and out the door. After that, when we're on solid level ground, then we'll dream about where we go from there.
Okay. Does it? So feel free to ignore this question. Then, is it so moving forward? Then, are you theoretically looking at like one project a year? Then, so as not to have this sort of overlapping scenario where Kickstarter's done on this, or we have some work done on this, and we're handing it off to this part of the team, and in 6 months maybe we're going to start this other thing.
Honestly, I have to see how things go.
Sure.
I have to see what Arrius Lurco, what the production is going to be. What lessons are we going to learn from the Kickstarter? What lessons are we going to learn from delivery and mailing Britannia? I am unwilling to make plans when there are still so many variables bouncing around. After these 2 projects, ask me that question. I'll have a better idea. But I'm just going to focus on these 2 questions and on these 2 projects and how these 2 projects do over the next year. will be the deciding factor on exactly how we move forward after this project.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair. Yeah, like I say, after so many years of uh, just kind of nose to the grindstone, being smarter, more selective, as far as how to do it, right? Because I mean, you're working a full time job too on top of
Yeah,
a
now
full
I am.
time job that's Golden Goblin Press. So like it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and my job is pretty much talking for 8 hours a day on the computer. So, like, my hobby, my side hustle is on the computer. My day job is on the computer. Um, so yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
again, the
yeah.
job is, factoring how finishing this Kickstarter, editing this project, delivering the last one while I have a full-time job. I have to see what that life looks like, what's manageable, and then realistically take that information into planning what we're doing in 2024,
Cool, cool.
which is liberating in a way because, you know, man plans and gods laugh.
You're
And
right,
I've
right.
always been a planner, and I've heard a lot of laughter from the gods over the last few years. So at this point, my plan is very narrow. Deliver
Mhm.
one, finish the other. That's it. We'll see where we are after that. And there's some peace that comes with that. Like, this is what we're doing. This is the plan. It's stuff that we're good at. It's stuff that we know we can do. And the stuff that is up in the air, we'll figure it out when we get there, but we'll be wiser when we get there because we'll have gone through this.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I think you are probably our most interviewed guest since we started the podcast.
I wouldn't be proud of that if I were you. I'm sure you could do better.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
Well, I do like hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, you guys are always doing cool stuff. So, like, if we can help in any way to promote that and see that comes to fruition, then that's
Oh, so I mean, just one other thing I'm going to throw out there for that very narrow and eager fan base of Star Frontier fans for Legends of Tabletop. I am actually going to be running a Star Frontiers game at TotalCon next weekend. Old school Star Frontiers, which we did, I think, a few times, and you said people still ask about it.
I still get comments every once in a while on those videos, and that's like 6 years, 7 years ago now.
Yeah. Not bad for a game no one's really played in 30 years. But yeah, there's a Star Frontiers community out there, and that was my palate cleanser during the pandemic. So just to kind of keep myself sane.
And are you still writing for the fanzine?
I am still writing for the fanzine. I enjoy my articles that come out. I'm actually helping them project manage and doing some mild editing for them, but nothing that's going to draw me away from, GGP. It's just, writing for Star Frontiers is like just dopey, dopey fun. It's not really work, it's just, I guess, the artist equivalent of doodling. But it was such a game and a setting that I have such passion for. Let me be honest. So I do look forward to the Star Frontier stuff, and the community out there is very, very active and passionate. There's a lot of love. You wouldn't think there would be, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of love out there for Star Frontiers. The game sold out instantly. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
that's funny. Yeah, that wasn't the one that I never played, because I didn't play in the 80s. I didn't start playing until the 90s. So I'd never crossed my path until, you were talking about it on the show and we're like, hey, we should like just play some stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a weird ass game. It should be fun.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. It's
Well,
always
thanks
a
for having
pleasure
me.
to have you on and, just bullshit for a while. So this has been fun.
Yes. And hopefully when all this is funded, we'll finish up and get you guys out of Britannia.
Well, at least 3 of us.
You keep saying that. He's going to be fine.
I'm sure everything will be fine.
It's all going to work out the way it was meant to.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, listen, go back to Kickstarter, buy all the things. There's links for Golden Goblin in the show notes for the Kickstarter, for the website, Twitter handle, all that stuff. So check all those things out. There are other products available. You just got to restock at the store recently, right?
Yes, and actually we and really happy that I did, because I guess all of the activity Cthulhu Invictus has been selling well, and
Nice.
we were out for like a week, and we just got the restock, and literally the day after it started selling again. We just put in a restock order for Tales of Cthulhu Invictus and further Tales of Cthulhu Invictus, because people are interested in the fictions again. And pretty soon, once the Kickstarter is being mailed, we'll be able to start selling physical copies of Tales of Cthulhu Invictus Britannia. So back
Nice.
to
Very cool.
our redheaded stepchild fiction line.
Nice. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for checking it out, and back the things, and we'll catch you next time.
Vale.